It's 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm finally finished with this project. Being in the military is inherently dangerous. We know this. We put our lives on the line, especially while deployed, and some jobs are more dangerous than others. It's just the way it is. Helicopter pilots, something can malfunction and could cause a crash. Recently, Chief Warrant Officer Dustin K. Wright, an Apache pilot, crashed and was pronounced dead at the scene. The unit reached out to me and wanted something for the family. So they gave me an idea, and asked me if I could make this. So this video is going to be a long format video because I'm going to show all the work that I put into this. It is a lot of hours. So this video is probably going to be an hour long. This is not an easy build. I tried to cut glass. I broke 5 sheets of glass trying to cut it and eventually just went with plexiglass. Anyway, I've been babbling on long enough. So let me show you what I built and why I'm finally finished at 2 o'clock in the morning. They're going to bring a new plate, and it's going to go right here in the center. This thing is pretty big and pretty heavy. I'm not sure how much it weighs, but it weighs a lot, and I put sandbags in the inside to keep it from being so top heavy. So it weighs even more. I did this project with honor, with him in mind, and the family, knowing that every time that they look at this and the flag that's eventually going to go in here from his casket after his memorial, celebrate his life. Every time you look at this and you have good memories of the times that you've had and the time spent with him. So I took into account what I would want as far as quality. Again, this was not an original idea of mine. I just got a picture and made some measurements, guessing off the picture and by measuring the rack in the photo, taking all that into account, and then figuring out the dimensions. So as far as the plans go, it was all in my head. I drew it out on graph paper. Please enter my raffle for the Festool Domino raffle giveaway that I'm doing. Link in the description below. If there's any tools that you saw me use and you'd like to know what they were, ask me down in the comments and I will let you know, give you a link or something. And to the Wright family and friends, anyone who may be watching this that knew him personally, I hope that I did you guys justice by honoring him while building this. I know that as a woodworker, some things we don't really want to have to make, and I'm glad that as a combat veteran that I was chosen to do this because it meant more than just a project to me. So I'm sorry for your loss. I know it hurts worse because it was in training and not during combat. He obviously deployed as an infantryman. I was a medic with infantrymen on my deployments, so I know what we go through, and the firefights and seeing the death up close and personal and patching up injured soldiers, to make it through all that, to come home doing your job, training, and passing away. It hurts worse because during deployment you expect it, but during training you don't really expect it. It can happen, but you don't expect it to happen. So when it does, it hurts more, and I understand that. And so again, I'm sorry for your loss. Know that I'm grateful and honored to have built this for you. So yeah, stick around. I've been making a couple of the pieces and trying to get it done. It's a rush order, so I had to kind of put some other orders to the side. I'm just honored that they chose me to do this as a fellow veteran, because I kind of know what they're going through. Every time they take a look at this, they're gonna think about times past and times missed and the time lost to the future that is no longer going to happen. So like I said, for me, as a military veteran who survived my combat deployments, like I said, mostly intact. That's all I wanted to say as the intro. All right, so I'm making this out of cherry, and I started with rough boards from a local sawmill, so it's all local lumber, and milled them all down, cut them to size. I cut some rabbets on the edge for the backer, and then for the glass, which I've never cut glass before, but I went to the thrift store and I got a couple of nice big pieces of glass from some crappy frames and some crappy pictures. That's not why I bought it. I bought it for the glass specifically, so I'm gonna learn how to cut glass while I'm doing this too. But let me show you what I got so far. I'm working from that side and working my way around. And I have the back piece for the cross. Everything is a miter cut. This mini miter cut is not the easiest thing because any little error compounds itself over the course of all of these miter cuts. So that is why I am using these angled corner brackets to make sure and hold it. And I've labeled all the pieces by numbers and put the numbers on here. So that way I make sure, and I labeled, which direction I need to cut them. I have the back written on the back of all of them, and I write face on them so I know which ones are the face as well. And just cut my angles. I got my small part sled set up with the blade at 45 degrees.
So here I'm making my first initial cut just to get a 45 on it, and then I will go through the process and show you. And after the process is shown, I will skip through the video.
Something I've done is I've marked the inside corners. See that? I marked the inside corners of where my miters need to be. So when I put this piece on, I can see where I need to mark. And so I mark there. And so I use the line that I marked here, and I put a little line right there. And then when I cut, and then I'll cut on this side and have a line marked up of where I need to line this up with in order to get the correct cut. But I want to cut it just a little bit long so I can ease my way into it. So I'm going to make it just a little bit longer than what it needs to be.
And this is pretty much the process. After finding my mark, I make my cut just a little bit long, and then I take it back over and check it and ease into the cut.
So now I can take it back and put it on here, and making sure my miter is good. And see, my line is lined up on that, and I still have a little bit left that I can take off. So I'll take off just the slightest amount, and I'll keep doing that until I get it perfectly. And then I'll get another piece. This is just a cut off. That way I can kind of test the fit, and I know that I have a lot hanging over on this side, so I know that this piece is too long, and I'll cut it down, getting closer and closer to the line each cut. So as you can see, it's kind of a process. It takes a little while, but it's the only thing I can do to keep the problem from compounding itself after every single cut, because just a degree off is going to make everything out of whack over the course of all the cuts. So it's a little tedious.
And as you can see, I ease into the cut. Generally, my pencil line is pretty good, but I don't want to make it too short, so then I have to mill more wood. So I continue to go back and forth on every single piece, and that is my process of how I make sure that I am as accurate as I can be for all of these miters.
And then every so often I just check to make sure I'm still at a 45. All right, that looks good. Well, you know what? I can probably just remove. Just work my way around. That'll probably be easier.
Once I know my pieces are good, I use the corner clamps and spring clamps to hold everything in place and move on to the next piece.
And then all these outside corners are going to get splines as well, so that's going to be interesting to try and do. Next piece, number 5. And this one's always harder because I have an inside and an outside miter to do. So I have to kind of like squeeze it in there just right and fit it. So it's a little more difficult. Just going to start cutting the end off on this.
And when I made this cut, I did it incorrect. See if you can see how I screwed this up.
That's going to go to the inside. And I'm going to be roughly about right here. And this needs to be...
I'm so glad I went back and double checked my work because I caught it just in time.
Oh, I cut this wrong. This is the wrong way. Damn it. It should be cut this way. So now my line is more like over here.
I'm so scared to make the cut, I go back and triple check myself.
And this way, which I do have correct. I'll just use piece 4. I'll I'll cut this so I can get that in there.
So I cut that piece and put it in there to make sure my inside miter is good so that I can check my outside miter. I then grab my small square to mark my line on the outside miter so I know exactly where to cut to make sure that my piece is accurate. Again, the process is tedious and it takes a lot of time, but I need it to be extremely accurate, so this is the only way I could think to do it, and it ended up working out for me. There might be other ways to do it. Let me know how you would have done it, because this is how I chose to do it.
Alright, so I need to cut to there. It's getting hot in here. Alright, so that's good. It's good. Alright, so
once I'm sure everything is good, I put the corner brackets on and spring clamps. I would not have been able to do this project without these.
and make any adjustments needed.
After corner brackets and spring clamps, I move on to the next piece. Mark, cut, ease into the line, check, cut, rinse, repeat, and on and on and on. The process goes till the entire cross is completed.
Whew, it is hot. This heat wave is ridiculous, man. Inside, that's good. Three. This is three. Oh, back is this way. That's alright. Cut. Well, like I said, it's getting pretty hot in here, so I'm gonna take a break, come back in, and finish this up. Today's video is sponsored by. Oh, hey, it's me. Do you need a domino? Brand new? Well, I'm doing a raffle. You can win this. Brand new domino. Just purchase a ticket in the link in the description, because I'm losing money out on this. So please, buy a ticket. All right, now to the video. Hey, behind the scenes, what are you doing? Up there, all right, to the video.
After I came back into the shop, I decided to start gluing pieces together. I wish I would not have glued these two pieces together because it made it impossible to do the outside miters on the cross, but I kept it in here anyways just to show that everybody does make mistakes.
That's going to get a spline on it. So, take this as well.
The short piece on the previous section that I glued up is what I needed to cut off and attach to this piece here in order to make it a U shape to do the splines.
I gotta get a better air conditioner these days when it's hot like this. Try to get a Mr. Cool to try and sponsor me like they do some of the other people, but I guess I'm not popular enough.
After I glue and clamp this section, I make sure that it's nice and square, set it aside, and then start working on the next section of the cross and putting those pieces together. Here I am taking the spring clamps off of this top section so that I can tape the three pieces together. This will then form a solid U shape, which I can then put back in place and continue moving on to the next section, which is the left section of the cross. I need to continue cutting those pieces, and then I will tape them together to also form a U shape, making the left section one solid piece as well. I do this so that I can use my spring clamps, I don't have enough, and also to do the splines later.
So that's the face, so this goes right here.
As you can see, I'm now taping on the next section. This is only temporary, and it just kind of helps keep everything aligned as I'm using all of these corner clamps and spring clamps in conjunction. So in order to not have this video be like 3 hours long, I skipped over the cutting and checking and cutting and checking and recutting the rest of the pieces. I am now taking everything out of clamps and getting ready to cut the splines. Once I get my spline jig out and attempt to cut the long piece that is glued together, remember how I said I wish I hadn't done it? Yeah, I figured that out and have to cut it, which I will show you here in just a minute. But I get the other sections ready to cut the splines. I'm using a 1/4 inch box joint cut blade. It cuts an exact 1/4 inch width, so it makes it super simple and super easy in order to put the splines in.
I should have done this and 3 like I did the others. This will fit in there just fine. Doing this, I won't be able to do that side. I might just have to cut that, so I can cut this and then just slice that end off, and then I'll glue these together so I can get the splines.
I used my miter saw to cut the short piece off, and then took it to the table saw to cut my 45°, being careful not to cut off too much.
8, 9, this is 10, that's the face, so it goes like this.
So like I said, I wish I wouldn't have glued the long piece to that short piece, having to cut it and then re-glue it into its section. But you know, everybody makes mistakes. It's not about that. It's about being creative and fixing it and overcoming a problem.
I haven't used this blade with this. I need to redo this whole spline jig anyway, so.
Because it was the first time I had used this blade on this jig, I made sure to go nice and slow, making sure that the cut was clean, there wasn't a whole lot of tear out. I have a whole video on how I made this spline jig. It has replaceable 0 clearance inserts that can be replaced.
That's as high as this blade gets. It's just an 8-inch blade. That's actually going to be pretty good, I think. This is 3 1/4. Let's see, we can, you know what, we'll just do 1 inch in, 1 inch. Alright, so now we can do that way, flip it over, boom, boom. Just to make sure it's not going to go all the way through. Don't see the blade coming out. Yep, so we're good. Alright.
So as you can kind of see in the beginning, I was a little uncomfortable pushing it through the blade because my spline jig does not have any T-track or dovetail type hold downs to hold projects in place while cutting the splines. This is the second iteration of my spline jig. The next one I do will be nicer, and I will also include that so that I'm not as uncomfortable. So I do this process and repeat it 2 more times.
There we go. Splines are made. I got a video on how I made this spline jig if you want to check it out. These inserts are replaceable down here, so once these get chewed up, you can take them out, put new ones in, or if you want to have 30-degree angled splines, you can put a 30-degree angle 0 clearance plates in there. If you want them to be 90, you got 90. If you want them to do 45, you got whichever degree you want, you know. Put them in there. Oh, being hunched over like this is killing my back.
That angle really hunched over does hurt my back a lot. I put it and left it in here, not for sympathy, but to show others who have chronic pain that even though you do have that pain, you can still go on and continue
This is why
to create.
I only do this part-time in my back. Oh, man. It's killing me today. My back is hurting real bad. I need to take a break. Time to put in the splines. Again, I'm using walnut. This is going to look really great once it's done. While this is drying, I can cut all the trim that I'm going to need. All right, so my trim is going to be 3/4 of an inch wide. 1/4 inch, yeah, 1/4 inch thick. So now I need to cut a bunch of trim. And I saved all the offcuts from when I made these boards because they were like this wide. So these are all the offcuts. So now I can use this to make some trim. I think it's actually, oh yeah, the splines are 1/4 inch because I used my box joint blade, which is a 1/4 inch thick exactly. So I need nine pieces.
So here I'm using my thin rip jig and it helps to cut thin pieces without having to use it up against the fence. I cut the splines in the same way using some scrap walnut, but I did not show it. You get the gist after watching just this once. I had to do this a whole bunch of more times.
The thing about making stuff from cherry is I can use this every time I barbecue, so that's nice.
After cutting and sanding these initial pieces, I then realized I had a whole lot more pieces of trim to make and to sand, so that is what I did. I won't show the whole process because, as you can see after a little bit, you understand what it is that I'm doing. So on to the next section of footage, which is for the flag case. It also has absolutely no audio because I was an idiot and forgot to turn on my mic. So you just get to listen to me talking, which isn't too bad, I guess. Anyway, I'm ripping down some boards that I milled to work on this flag case. They'd been sitting off to the side. I just hadn't cut them to the proper width or length. Once I get them cut to width, I then cut my first 45 degrees on there so that I can start getting them to rough length. I will eventually have to trim them down to the correct length later on.
Perfect.
Foreshadowing, it's not.
Perfect.
Let's now follow along in Josh's brain as he tries to figure this out.
It's the back, so I can use this. Ah, my fingers! Oh, okay. I am going to have to adjust this lot. How am I going to do that? I need to have it so that only part of this accepts the dado groove. Otherwise, this whole thing has to be, that whole thing has to be cut, doesn't it? Like there. I didn't think about this, did I?
No, I did not indeed think about how I was going to do this.
So in order for that to slide, I have to eliminate all of this up to that level. But first I gotta cut this at an angle so that it lays flat like this. And then
no more and then.
So from there, all of that has to be gone. How the fuck am I gonna do that?
Yeah, Josh, how are you going to do that? Why'd you create a problem for yourself that you have to figure out? What an idiot.
I'm gonna have to slice this one piece at a time, I guess. Let's see here.
Well, that's the sound of confidence, isn't it?
I'll be able to see that pencil line. No. Okay, so that's the right shoulder. So I need to eliminate all of this. And the same thing on this side. Exactly what I do on this side. And this piece is cut. This piece needs to be the exact same as this.
Well, as you can see, I was working my brain overtime trying to figure this one out. In the interest of time and trying to get this thing out before the 4th of July for my Festival Domino Raffle, I'm going to end this video here. I'm going to make this probably a 2-part. So in the meantime, I'll just leave you with these little nuggets.
I just did all that without recording any audio. That was smart. That was real smart. 36 minutes of no audio. Ah, my fingers! I'm going to take a break and think about how to do this.